This is the Cafe Racer Podcast, episode 113, I think, for August 1st, 2017, Taco Tuesday. I'm Crash.
And I'm Steven.
All right, so here we are. We've got special guest Stephen Case on the show from, I don't remember the name of the town in upstate New York, Soder's Point?
Soder's Point, yeah.
Okay, cool. Which means practically nothing to me except that it's in upstate New York. I don't know much beyond that. I'm not really up in my New York state geography. But welcome to the show.
Not many people are.
Yeah, people are like New York City. I don't know anything beyond that.
That's everybody thinks that's the state.
That's generally how you know if someone's from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're from New York. No, not that part.
Right. So, total non-motorcycle related sidebar. I'm taking this course on like French culture and society for this college, for my college degree, and one of the biggest parts of this course is about how like everybody just associates like France is Paris to everybody else outside of France, as if there's nothing else in France except for just Paris and the Eiffel Tower. We got like the Eiffel Tower, 4 blocks of cafes and dudes with baguettes and people with attitudes, and that's all of France. And so I think people think the same thing about New York. Like they're like, oh, New York State is just the city and like Long Island, and that's it.
Crash, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What's the name of that class you're taking?
French culture and society.
Why are you taking like welding or something useful for us instead of that? We can't do anything with that.
You know, me and Jess have talked about taking welding. It's hard to take welding online. I don't know if there are any online welding classes, but I'm actually getting it.
I'm sure they'll make a computer program for it.
Yeah, probably. I took a communications class online where we had to videotape speeches and send them into the class.
Did you just send us their podcast to them?
I should have, but I had to have like a specific number of verifiable audience members. So you had to be able to see my audience in the video recording.
We'll just turn the camera around so we can see the people out there.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
All the internet people that are watching. But yeah, I'm getting an English degree for my bachelor's. That's what I'm working towards anyway. And I had to take either language classes.
What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Seriously.
I like words, all right? Shut up. Yeah, I don't know. I want to take, me and Jess were just talking about like trying to take welding classes using my GI Bill or something.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I'd like to learn how to do that, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like right now, I busted a hole in something metal, and I was like, oh, if I knew how to weld, I could just boop, boop, be done. Weld that little thing back up.
Yeah, and you know I know they're cheap ones, but Harbor Freight's got some deals on welders.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, they're not,
That's what I use.
Yeah. That's kind of cool.
So did you go to any kind of school, Steve, for welding, or did you just start doing it?
No, I just kind of started doing it. I bought this welder. It was a Harbor Freight welder, but I bought it from a buddy of mine he wanted to upgrade, and I just kind of bought a bunch of metal and started welding stuff together, and eventually just sucked. But I'm getting a little bit better.
Nice. So I guess to give everybody a little bit of background on how you ended up on the show, you emailed me a little while ago, like honestly embarrassingly long ago for me, for how long it took for me to remember to get you on the show. But you emailed me a while ago and were like, hey, I built some bikes in my spare time. Love the show. It'd be cool to come talk about it. So here you are. Also, thank you for supporting us on Patreon. That's super cool. It had nothing to do with you being on the show. It wasn't like, oh, you're going to give us money? Okay, you can come on the show. No, anybody can come on the show if you got something fun to talk about. So yeah, what do you ride right now?
What was
Now,
that?
what do you ride right now?
Right now, I have a custom-built 1991 Honda Nighthawk CB750. It's kind of a Franken bike, is what my buddies call it. I've got a 75 CB tank on it, Harley handlebars, shocks off a Honda Shadow.
I can definitely
But it looks
appreciate
pretty sweet.
using parts from other bikes. I've got some random Kawasaki and Honda parts on my Triumph, so yeah, I've
You can
seen
take
pictures of it.
whatever you got and put it together, then that's the way it's all about.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of it, and to be honest with you, I would not guess that that's a Nighthawk. That like
No.
it's a '90s Nighthawk.
Yeah, no, not at all.
It
I
looks
get
really
stopped all the
slick.
time. Oh man, how old is that thing? License plate made so it says 1991 CB.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's a cool bike. Was that kind of like something that you bought new and didn't know what you were going to do with it, or did you buy that bike with the intention of making it into something else?
The intention of making it into something else. I got it from a guy at work for like $200. It didn't run. It had been sitting in his garage for 10 years. A hurricane. He said it was struck by lightning. I was like, you know what? The price is right. I think I can get this thing going and do something pretty cool with it. Actually worked on it for a year in a storage unit. And it just in spare time built it up to what it is.
So
Nice.
what's your background, Steven, with motorcycles? Were you a mechanic or you self-taught?
Self-taught. I've had quite a few bikes over the years.
Mhm.
Started off on dirt bikes a long time ago when I was in my teens. Had a couple mopeds when I was younger. And I just progressively got into more and more detailed stuff.
Nice. I know from talking to you, your prior Navy, and now you've grown the definitive "I am not in the Navy" beard.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody that I know that like works with a company that does any kind of like defense stuff is like, oh, I'm not in the Navy anymore. I'm growing a beard. Like as soon as they get out.
Every single one of my friends who's out, giant beard. Every one of them.
I'm not going to be able to do that. When I get out, if I grow a beard, it would be this like Joe Dirt, terrible looking, like.
I'll never be able to have a
Oh, believe me,
beard.
that's how this started out.
Nice.
Yeah, no. I mean, I came back from vacation one day, and and I'm in administration. I'm not even in operations side, and I was walking through the mailroom, and I only had like maybe a week's worth of growth, and the fire chief looked at me and said, "When are you going to shave, Grizzly Adams?" I'm like, "Okay." So coming tomorrow, shaved.
Yeah, and in the fire service, you guys are pretty strict on facial hair too, right?
Yeah, no facial hair. No. You can have a mustache, but usually most of the rules say it can't come past the corners of your mouth.
Yeah,
No
it's like the
beards,
same rule that we have to have
Yep.
too.
Yeah. No mutton
And it's for
chops.
the same reason. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you can't get a good seal on any kind of breathing apparatus with a bunch of facial hair. So
Yeah. The funny thing is like I went to school for some pretty advanced levels of diving, and like right on the border, a commercial dive school. And we wore like band masks, that there were guys that had full beards, and I think it's a little bit different for that kind of mask, but never really was a problem. It's also just a kind of a spit and polish and look type thing. Really.
yeah,
But I'm not going to complain because I'm like you. If I tried to grow a beard, it just like clumps of it come in, like.
yeah. I there's no connection on the corners.
Right.
Like I could not grow like the goatee connected to the
Yeah.
mustache.
That's like, I don't think I've reached puberty yet. So
Yeah. I mean, like even this tiny bit of facial hair I have right now is like 2 days.
hey, so Steven, tell everybody how much fun they're missing on Slack.
Oh, they're missing all sorts of fun.
See? Told you guys.
Yeah,
You
it's
gotta
like
get on
I mean,
Slack.
yeah, there's like a ton of people. Like so, Rob Thornton just recently he sent me an email. He's like, "Hey, you guys like totally guilt tripped me into getting back in so I could get on Slack with you guys." So he started supporting us on Patreon again just so he could have access to the Slack. So that was cool.
You know, it's funny. I'm hearing more and more people that are using Slack for the companies are using it for work.
Yeah.
More and more.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that use it, and then there's a bunch of other tools from like Microsoft and other companies that are just like Slack, but like kind of rolled into their like enterprise level offerings of productivity software.
Mhm.
But Slack was one of the first people that kind of tried to do the like group collaborative messaging with like extra features beyond just like being a messenger. I mean, mostly we just use it as a messenger. Like we talk, we share a picture every now and then. But there's a ton of plugins you could get where we could like have a Word doc that everybody works on and it's all collaborative or whatever. It's not particularly useful to our show in that way, but it's free and it's a great place for us all to just kind of show up, and like it's easy to control who's, you know, got access and who doesn't.
So, you know, the thing about it is too, I've got it so it pops up on my phone and on like the Apple Watch, which is kind of cool. And then I can see when guys, especially listeners, are posting pictures. We've got some couple guys on there that are pretty prolific. Scott has always got photos. Scott and Doug write every week, and they've got pictures going up, which is kind of neat. We kind of encourage you guys to do that. One of the things I'm going to do this week on Slack is post my Rever information and try to get all you guys on Rever as well. Because the cool thing about Rever is we can actually share rides. So I can post a link from a Rever ride onto Slack, and then you guys can open it up right in Rever and see what the ride is. And if it's something like, let's just say I go to Western North Carolina, do a ride, and Steven, you end up there, you know, 6 months later, you can actually ride the exact same ride in Rever, which is pretty neat.
That'd be really cool. I would love to do that because I'm always looking for new rides to go. And every year I go down to South Carolina to visit my family down there. And this year
cool.
I'm hoping to bring one of my bikes with me and actually do some decent rides down there.
When are you talking about going?
My parents live in Anderson. It's just west of Charleston.
When would you be there?
Oh, I can normally go there around Christmas time.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say the Overland Expo is the end of September, beginning of October, but that's in North Carolina. It might not be anywhere near Anderson. It's closer. It's in Asheville.
It's like probably.
Yeah, I wish I could go to that.
Away.
One of my good buddies is actually going to be going to that. I'm super jealous of that.
Have you have you ever considered going to Americade? Because you're pretty close.
I did go this year.
Oh, cool.
Well, guess what? You just got promoted Cafe Racer podcast promoter. I mean, a reporter. So now you got to tell us about Americade.
Yeah, how was Americade?
We were only there for one day because we drove up there. We didn't ride our bikes because it was out of commission temporarily because a battery decided to die on me, and I've trying to get a new one was just ridiculous. We ended up driving up there. We went to a lot of the demos. I believe it was on a Saturday that we went up, and there were tons of bikes everywhere. It was crazy. It was super cool. I got to ride the BMW R9T. Was it Urban GS?
Oh, what'd you think of that?
That was a fun bike to ride.
Is that the one that has like the white paint job with the high fender? Yeah. That looks like an old R80?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, I love the way that bike looks.
Let me ask you a question, Steven. Did you notice
it handles like a dream?
Yeah. Did you notice at all? And a couple people have told me I'm out of my mind, and then a couple people tell me that they've noticed it. On your right foot, did you notice the guard for the rear brake master cylinder rubbing your ankle at all?
No, not really. I never noticed that.
It's so funny because that like was super. I rode the R9T, their Cafe Racer version of it. What'd they call that thing, Chris? I
don't know. I'll look it up.
Anyway,
I'm trying to remember you.
I've noticed all of them are the same. They've got this big guard, a metal guard, where your right foot is, and it bothered the hell out of me, even with boots on. I mean,
so
it was
this is gonna really blow your mind. It's called the R9T Racer.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Pretty inventive.
I mean, I'm sure it's something that could be changed or put a different foot peg on to get more space, but it's just bugged the hell out of me.
Yeah, I guess everybody's, a little different in terms of their preferences. I've got some different things. Like when I rode a Harley with mid controls once, and the primary cover on the left side drove me nuts. So
it's kind of
my old Harley had the forward controls, and when I built that, I actually bought rear controls.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, it was such a difference on that bike. It was.
So, Steven, do you have any like specific builds that you've done that really stand out to you as like you're super proud of, or you did something that you really liked, or anything like that?
Well, right now, pretty much my 750 is my pride and joy. I mean, I had a 2001 Sportster that I converted into a cafe racer style bike. But sadly that got destroyed.
Destroyed? That sounds like a story.
Yeah, a truck pulled out in front of some guy that was riding it. I let him borrow it and didn't make out too well.
That's no good.
He invested in it to be able to rebuild it.
Did you post pictures of that or something, or did you have? I thought I saw a Harley you posted.
I know
pictures
I sent Crash a couple pictures of it. A picture of it.
Yeah.
I also built I built a 81 CM400. You guys seen the pictures of it on Patreon?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think that was when I was asking you if it was an automatic one or not.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was a pretty fun build. That one I just it fell into my lap. A guy at work saw my 750 and he was like, "Hey, you like these old bikes, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, this one's been sitting in my barn for a couple years. It's torn to pieces. You can have it if you want it." Went and picked it up later that day.
Okay.
You just don't find stuff like that down here where people are giving away old bikes, Do
you have is there a Mrs. Case that's like?
No, not currently.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that sounds like a thing where like, if there was a Mrs. Case, she'd be like, "You brought home another bike? Why?"
Well, if I had a Mrs. Case, I'd be divorced already. I'm sure of it.
You got to find a girl that likes the fact that you collect bikes, like some people collect stray animals.
Oh yeah.
It's like, but it was so.
You can never have too many bikes.
Yeah. I got really lucky with Jess. Like she's super encouraging of me getting another motorcycle. So it's just a matter of, like finding the right one and having the money for it. I was drooling over Zero motorcycles today, like the electric motorcycles. I was at work just drooling over these two dual sport models that they have.
Dual sport? I want a Harley Livewire. That's what I want.
Yeah, you got to ride the little demo thing, didn't you?
Yeah, they didn't really. The one that I did, it wasn't actually, the bike wasn't something you could take out. It was like on a stand kind of.
Right.
The rear tire was connected to like a cylinder that turned, that simulated being on the road. But man, I'm telling you, after that experience of riding, that just instant delivery of power and torque, I was like, oh, I really want one of these.
Yeah.
But Harley said,
I like the Lowrider S.
I don't know which one that is. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Is that the new one, the cafe bike that they've got?
No, that's what is that one?
That one's pretty cool.
Street. A Harley Street.
Not the Street. Not that. There's one that's in the Sportster family now that they just came out with. That is, and it might be this. I got to look it up now. You're killing me.
I'm going to share my screen real quick so that everyone can see the Harley Lowrider S. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that I like.
So yeah, like flat bars, really nice looking cast wheels.
Oh yeah.
Badass, man, and it's mid controls. It's really cool.
Yeah,
it looks good. Solo.
That thing had so much power.
No room for a Mrs. Case on there. Just Steven cruising.
Did a demo ride on that, Steven?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So, how was it comfort wise?
It was actually pretty comfy. I drove a bunch of Harleys because there's one here that does the Harley ride days or whatever. Me and my buddy happened to be out on the bikes and we stopped in. I test drove the V-Rod, the Dynaglide, a whole bunch of different ones, Street Glide. And out of all of them, by far, that one was my favorite. It handled awesome. The seat was super comfy. It kind of, if you really, really got on it, it felt like you were going to slide off the back, but.
Yeah. It's a Dynaframe, it looks like.
And that's not the one I'm thinking of, man. There's another one. Let me
this is a full size, like 100 something like 100 and something cubic inch, like Dynaframe.
Oh, let me check it out and see.
It's nice. I like it.
Yeah.
The Dynas have always been like, if I was gonna get a Harley, it would be one of the Dyna bikes for sure. Because they're
Why?
like,
I love Dyna.
They've got the best suspension and like the most comfortable kind of like, because I don't want a big fat touring bike. It's not really my thing. The Dyna is probably the best handling of all the Harleys. The Sportster may be a little better, but I feel like the Sportster's suspension is probably not as good, probably a lot rougher.
The thing about the Sportsters, though, they're such a small frame.
Yeah.
This is the bike I was talking about, and I think this is the one. Let me share my screen here. Let me see. This thing is really cool. Can you guys see that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was it the 48?
Oh,
no, it's called the Roadster.
That thing looks nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's got flat bars on it. You know, you mid controls. It felt really comfortable. It was pretty neat. You know, and
you rode that, Steve?
No, I didn't ride it. I'm going to schedule a test ride for one. I talked to the guy, told him, you know, hey, I'm not really interested in buying right now, but we do a show, and I wanted to kind of get some photos of it and do a test ride on it. It's pretty neat. I mean, it's not, you know, like you said, it's not a Dynaframe. It's not a big bike. It's not something. It's an around town bike, but it's pretty cool.
It looks really like aggressive.
Yeah,
you know, like really like tough. I like.
And I imagine it with some like blacked out straight pipes, you know, because I'm not these chrome pipes are like covers on there. I don't know. They're kind of cheesy looking when you look at them up close, but I think that thing is really neat. I mean, if I was gonna,
that's really nice looking.
I mean, I make fun of cruisers all the time, but the truth of the matter is, Harley Davidson makes a great bike. You know, the fit and finish on it.
I talk a lot of trash too.
Yeah,
but they do make really nice. I've actually seen in person, like on the road. I was riding down the road and I saw somebody on either a Street 750 or a 500. I don't know which one it was because I don't know enough about them to be able to tell by sight. But I saw somebody on one of the street, like the Harley Street, whatever.
The funny thing is they're becoming more popular, and I noticed when I went to this dealer remember when this table's shaking. Remember when the Streets first came out, and I went to a couple dealers, and the guys were like, you don't want that, you know?
Yeah.
This place, same place I went to the first time, which is a really big Harley Davidson dealer in South Florida, and the guy took me right over to him. I said, you know, I'm looking for like a kind of a bike. I don't know what it was. I saw it in a picture. It's kind of cafe racer style. And he's like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Just like Steven, he said, it's a 750 Street. And I said, no, that's not what I was looking at. He goes, but, you know, and the guy started selling me on it. He goes, these are really nice bikes. They're great beginners bikes, blah, 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 blah. So I think their attitude has changed a little bit, and they see it definitely as an entry point for people that have never had a motorcycle before into the world of Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
But I told the guy, no, I'm, you know, I was something specific, and I think it was a Sportster, and he showed me that. I like the Dyna too. I think that's kind of cool, you know?
Yeah, there's a guy I work with that we went on a motorcycle ride not that long ago for work, and he pulled up in his brand new, I want to say it's a Fat Bob. I am not 100% certain. It's got the two side-by-side headlights in the front, and it's a Dyna. But it looks really nice. I don't think the way he's got his set up, it's a lot of custom stuff. Like the handlebars are like high kind of drag bars, so he's like kind of riding with his hands up in front of his face like this. It's not really my style, but it definitely has like a really high level of quality. You can see.
Yeah, and the thing that the difference between the lowriders and the Sportsters, the lowrider seems to have a bit more rake in the front too.
Yeah.
But these bikes, they're man, especially when they're customized, they're great bikes, great motors in them. But it's not the only thing is I can't ride foot forward controls for me. That's why it would have to be a mid control bike. And I think this is the last
forward
year.
controls are just terrible.
You didn't like them?
No, I hated them.
No.
Steven, how tall are you?
5'11".
Okay, so you and I are really close. I'm like 6 feet barely. So yeah, we're like basically the same height. When I was riding forward controls, like I took a demo on a Harley that had forward controls, and it felt like my feet were just gonna fall off at any moment.
A little stretched out almost.
Yeah, like I didn't feel like my feet were comfortably, like safely resting on something. They were
But you're
like
not putting
barely
any weight
hanging on.
in them. That's why there's no weight on them. You know what I mean? It's not, and it's,
Yeah.
to me, it's counterintuitive when you've always learned to, when you're cornering, to weight the inside peg. I just, it's not like it's like the wrong way to ride a motorcycle.
So it's like weight the inside cheek, I guess, with a Harley.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know. But and then the other thing is too, my back would always hurt sitting like that.
Yeah.
It just
So,
seems more comfortable.
A brief update on Jess's bike. Nothing has happened. We spent a month with all 4 kids in the house, and so she has not ridden at all. So we have 2 weeks starting yesterday with no kids at all. And the plan is for her to get out and ride her bike some to actually get comfortable, because she's pretty timid. Like she won't go out on the street with cars or anything. But hopefully, and maybe if she gets to the point where she's actually riding it long enough to get the engine warmed up to where it starts acting up again, I can troubleshoot the hanging idle, because it like hangs at like 3,000. It'll like idle down to like 3,000 and just kind of sit there for a second and then slowly come down. I think it may have a leak in the intake manifold or something, but I don't know.
There's the other thing I was going to talk to you about. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Speaking of custom bike builds, there's a guy on YouTube with a channel called For the Bold. Have you seen this?
I've seen him on Instagram. I have not gone on the YouTubes.
Yeah, I think his goes by the name Driguez. But
okay,
he's got a really cool build going on a CX500, and I've been starting to watch these things from the beginning. I think he's up to like episode 24 or 25 of this thing. But he started with just rolling it into his garage and then tearing it apart and making stuff on it. It's a really good series. And if you search for it, we'll post a link for it, but just go on YouTube and look for the Bold dash Driguez, Dreegez. And it's pretty cool, man. This guy does everything, pretty much soup to nuts on this bike. He cuts parts off the frame, re-welds stuff up. It's real interesting. Does it all in his little garage. I think the guy's from Scotland, but it's pretty neat.
Nice.
Especially I've always liked those bikes because they remind me of Moto Guzzi's, but
yeah, the CX500 is a cool bike.
Yeah, and he even talks about selection in the beginning on certain versions of that 500 motor, and what to look for, and it's interesting. Something to check out. Did you do any
CX500 build?
What's that, Steven?
I've been looking for a CX500. I've always wanted one. Before I got the 400, I was looking for CX500 custom just because of the shape of the tank.
Yeah. Have you looked at the GL500, the silver wing?
Yes, I have. I actually, when I was selling the CM, a guy actually offered me a 650 GL.
Okay.
The guy tried to chop it up himself, and it was I was looking for.
Oh, There was a guy here in town when I was looking for a bike for Jess that had a GL 500 that I seriously considered before I came across the Suzuki. I was reading an article today on like Motorcyclist Magazine's website about the like mid 80s turbocharger craze that the Japanese bikes went through. So like the Suzuki Turbo and the Honda CX 500 and 650 Turbo.
Yeah.
And man, there was something about the style of that 650 Turbo, like just the way the fairing looked. They had like this big, like almost like whale shark face on it that I just loved. I was like, I want one of those.
Bike. That was a super cool bike. I'm gonna find. You know what? It was all. It had to do with the paint job too. It was kind of neat on it.
Yeah.
I'm finding a picture of it right now. That thing was. It reminded me of the way the fairing was shaped, like the BMW R100.
Yeah, the RS.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has a BMW RS look to it.
Yeah, super cool bike. I just found a really nice example of one here on ADV Rider. So let me
screen share it so that all those people that are listening to the audio only podcast can imagine that we. No,
they can. I think they can if they listen really hard. They're able to see it. I believe.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So listen real hard now, and now just Google Honda CX500 Turbo, and you're gonna this image will come up. But
yeah, that's exactly it.
Like, that's neat looking.
Yeah,
I'm a sucker for the Honda red, white, and blue paint job.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I love about the one version of the Africa Twin. It's got that big scoop underneath the headlight that, like I said, it makes me think of a whale shark's mouth, just like wide open, you know, as they swim through the water, like.
I just thought the whole thing was cool. I thought the turbo writing on the exhaust was cool. I thought turbo on the front was really neat.
It's turbo in like 6 places on that bike.
Yeah, it was turbo everywhere, and you know that back then was a big deal. Oh, he's got a turbocharger. Yeah,
that thing's. I want it.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, it was just I got an email. You know, I get like the weekly email from Motorcyclist Magazine, and it's like kind of a wrap up of some of their like highlights. And I saw this article about the 80s turbo craze. They called it the 80s turbogasm that that they went through, and so I read it while I was sitting at work today.
There's one of the guys I ride with, you've heard me talk about, who's a real experienced rider. He was a professional racer back in the day, a guy named Scott Cantrell. He's got a Hayabusa that's turbocharged, and there's been a number of these bikes showing up at the gas station on Sunday. It's like coming back in style. But this thing supposedly has got 300 horsepower, and I know it does over 200. But and it's kind of crazy because you don't see anything on the bike. Everything's hidden underneath the fairing.
Yeah.
So you can't tell that this bike is crazy fast with a lot of horsepower on it.
They have pretty big fairings, so there's a lot of room under there.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
I can't imagine what that's like. I mean, I'm assuming it's some kind of turbo that doesn't have a lot of like turbo lag or whatever, where you're just riding along and all of a sudden it's just like bam, just like punches you. But maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't know. I've never ridden one before. And I know that didn't Chuck have a turbo bike, or Todd did, right?
He did. Yeah. Chuck had a turbo Sprint.
Right. Right. He talked about how that power delivery was kind of rough on that thing once it kicked on, but that wasn't, I don't know, the one that Scott's got set, like there's no adjustable boost on it. It's only set for one, but the bike is ungodly fast.
Yeah. Have either of you guys seen the videos? They were around for a while, of that like guy in like Sweden or Switzerland that rode a turbocharged black Hayabusa. I think he went by the name of like Ghost Rider or whatever.
I've never seen that.
No? Okay. Well, there's this guy. He would post videos. It was like before GoPros were even a thing. He had like a camera mounted on his bike, and he would go do all kinds of stuff. Like, you know, he'd be riding down the road. He had a turbocharged Hayabusa. And so like you'd see his speedometer, and you'd see like that sudden, when the turbo hit, you'd see the speedometer suddenly like rocket up, you know. And he'd be going, you know, crazy speeds, doing really ridiculous illegal stuff. which, you know, not necessarily condoned, but he was really good rider, and he never, like, there were never any videos of him like crashing or hurting anybody or anything. And like he was always like running from the cops or whatever, and he's posting these videos to YouTube. But that's like kind of the first thing I think of whenever I think of a turbocharged Hayabusa. He also had a few videos where he was riding around those little like 50cc pocket bikes. It's like him and 3 other guys, and they ride through this mall. Like they just ride into the mall and then ride around the mall and like down the escalator or whatever, and then ride around the bottom floor of the mall and then out the other door.
That's awesome.
That's like the video that Icon did that I loved a lot with the 2 guys riding through Barber Museum.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that one? Yeah.
I think that one's an Ernie Vigil and somebody else.
Yeah, Ernie Vigil's in that. Yeah. That was pretty wild. And
is Alonzo Bowden in that one?
Yeah, Alonzo's in the beginning of that.
Yeah, he's in the beginning of a lot of their videos.
Yeah. That was great. So I'm actually looking through this. There's an article that's on Visor Down about 10 forced induction motorcycles. And there's one that I totally forgot about that I used to think was really cool too, was the Kawasaki, the GPZ 750 Turbo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's like that was crown jewel.
I love that bike because of the lines on it. That had some great looking lines on it. I'm going to share this picture because for those of you that are just listening, think real hard and you'll see this.
Listen super hard. And then Google GPZ 750.
Hold on a second. Let me get this thing back over here. Here we go. Check this thing out, man. It's a good looking motorcycle. Can you see that?
I can't decide if that's a cruiser or a sport bike.
Well, it's a sport bike because I mean I know it does it's kind of deceiving because of again, this is like a visual thing like the SR 400.
Yeah.
It has that kind of sway paint job, you know, that red that goes down in the tank and makes it look a little cruiserish, but
yeah.
No, man, that's a cool bike.
That was like the precursor to the Ninja. Like the GPZ was the Katana, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Katanas were
Suzuki, right? Yeah, the GPZ but the GPZ was a precursor to the Ninja, right?
Yeah, and there was. Let me see if I can find the other one. They had a Suzuki one that was like a Katana called an NX85.
Yeah,
which was the other one too. I forgot completely about is this one, the Seika.
Yeah, the Yamaha
650 turbo, right?
That seat is hideous.
Well, I think for me the whole bike was hideous because the way the fairing was kind of split in the middle.
Yeah,
you know, and then these stupid videos of self-play. This thing right here too, the GPs or this 750. I got to turn this thing off. But there was the Honda 750 turbo, which is actually kind of cool looking too.
Yeah. So something else for you guys that don't follow us on Instagram or Facebook or anything to imagine is I just started and got quite a ways into the project of putting 20 millimeter ammo cans onto the side of my bike as saddlebags. I took, me and my wife went down to the garage last night since we didn't have any kids, and we worked on it a little bit. We got all the mounts figured out. I used a set of mounting pucks and everything from Happy Trail, which is a little company out of Idaho. I didn't realize that they made pannier racks for the Bonneville now. They didn't back when I got my pannier racks, but they do now. Mm-hmm. And so if you're out there, if you have a Bonneville of the same like body style as mine, like the 2002 to 2016, I think, Bonneville's, Happy Trail makes a really super reasonably priced set of pannier racks. It's like $279, I think, for theirs. Mine are a custom thing done by a guy here in San Diego, and when I got these saddlebags, I was like, man, these ammo cans are like 20 pounds a piece, and I was feeling a little nervous about putting 40 pounds of weight on my saddlebag racks based on how they're attached to the bike. And so I emailed him He runs a company called PM Racks. So if you Google PM Racks, you'll find him out there. He makes a bunch of like saddlebag stuff for like dual sport bikes and stuff like that. But I emailed him. I said, hey, so I've got these ammo cans and I really love the racks you made me, but I'm not sure I should put 40 pounds of weight on them. And he goes, yeah, I wouldn't put 40 pounds of weight on those like that either. So we're gonna add some extra support because there's like one more place on the subframe where we could connect the rack to, so it would add extra, strength. But last night we got them all mounted up. You can find the pictures of that are on Instagram, and I think they're on Facebook too. They look pretty nice. When I first held one up next to the bike, me and Jess were both a little bit skeptical. Like maybe they're too big and they're not going to look right. But we got them positioned, and I used like a hydraulic like car jack and a pair of jack stands to put both of them, like one on each side, to kind of like get them next to the bike to see what they look like. It looked really nice. We got the mounts all done, so you can check that out. I just need to paint them now because they're like flat green with a bunch of random black spray paint all over them, and I accidentally put a hole in one of them yesterday, so that was fun.
How'd you manage that?
Well, so the bigger ammo cans have this support bracket that runs down the outside of them, and it's just spot welded on. And so the problem with it is it's just this diagonal bar basically that would get in the way of being able to mount it to the rack.
Right.
And since it was just spot welded on, I went at it with a chisel and a hammer, and popped most of those welds apart pretty easily. But one particular spot, the chisel like dug in and actually cut the weld off, leaving me a little circular hole instead of just separating the two.
Yeah, I have you tried to like? Do you have a couple 50 ammo cans that you could look and see how they look as well? Because I thought the same thing. When you had that picture, I thought, man, those things are huge.
The 50 cal ammo cans are so small.
Yeah.
They're like a quarter of the size of those. And they just, I don't even think that my pannier racks are big or are small enough to mount them on.
So they look kind of goofy on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that picture I posted the other day with the guy who was following behind on some road, and he's got like I don't know, it was like a big cruiser of some kind, either a Honda or something, and he's got these little tiny bags like this big. They look like, I've got my hands like the size of a bread box, and they were mounted on the bike. They were so small, they were mounted on the bike. They were like kind of flipped out like this, like a pair of wings.
Yeah, they were almost like at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, it looked completely ridiculous. And it's just like, oh, I'll just slap these things on the bike. They'll be fine. Like, oh my God. Like you could put a sandwich in them. I think they're sandwich carriers is what they were. Maybe they were lunch boxes. They might have been lunch boxes.
The picture looked like one of them was mounted backwards too.
It was kind of ridiculous, right?
It probably was. I tried to get a picture the same day. I tried to get a picture of a guy that I saw on the way to work. I was in my car, so I couldn't get close. And he was lane splitting. But he had his rear fender was an ammo can. So like, if you guys have looked at the pictures on Instagram of my ammo cans, they were the same width, but like half the height. So they're kind of like long and skinny. The one that he used, it's called a 40 millimeter ammo can. If you just look it up online, it's a 40 millimeter ammo can. It's like maybe 10 inches tall by like almost a foot and a half long. So like 17, 18 inches long. So kind of skinny. Well, that was his rear fender, and it was mounted on its side so that the top of the can opened to one side of the bike, and on top of the fender ammo can, he had a headlight, like a Model A headlight. So like the Ford Model A headlight. I was like, what the hell? And I swear, I don't know for sure, but I swear this was on like a kind of modern looking bike.
It's funny how much goofy shit people put on motorcycles and think it looks really cool. Like, and then they're like really proud to tell you, I made this myself. Like I put this goofy shit on here and I made it. Like, yeah,
I'm sure there's somebody. I actually, from Instagram, I know that there's somebody out there that thinks that I'm doing the exact same thing to my bike with the saddlebags. He's like, Why don't you just get some real saddlebags? And I totally understand the argument, but I think that my bike would not look right with a pair of modern looking saddlebags on it.
It's like, it's okay when you do what you're doing because the bike's been kind of changed around and it's got a lot of, it's had some interesting stuff going on. But it's like taking a sissy bar on a sport bike. Well, who does that? It's not, or it would be like mounting ammo cans on a Ducati, a Desmo Sedici, putting ammo cans on a Desmo Sedici.
Yeah, that wouldn't look good.
No. Or putting, prying the fairing off of a Gixxer 1000 and sticking that on the front of like a Harley Sportster. That's just...
I want to see that now. That sounds like a great idea.
Sure, if you Google it, you can find it.
Probably.
Harley Sportster with sport bike fairing. Something's going to come up. Yeah, George Carlin said if you used to nail two things that have never been nailed together, some idiot will buy it. So, well, we got a couple things we're going to be giving away, right, Crash? I wanted to talk about that because we're going to. So here's the thing. We get stuff to test from manufacturers. Sometimes we buy it at a discount. Sometimes they give it to us. We're pretty straightforward about that, but we're not going to keep all of it because we just can't use it. And Crash has got a couple helmets. I've got a jacket and a comm system. And here's where a guy like...
helmet with a comm system.
Huh? He's got a helmet with a comm system.
Yeah.
So
I just put the review up on that thing, by the way. If you go to caferacerpodcast.com, you'll find the review of the Schuberth M1 and SRC communication system.
Oh, very cool. So we've got that. We have a Nex helmet we're giving away, right?
Yep, the XG100.
The garage version of the XG100. We have a killer Climb jacket, which is from their 626 line, the Drifter. And we have a set of Cardo, I believe they're Pack Talks, a twin set.
I think so.
Yeah, and we gave away the laser Monaco that we had because it was kind of, we didn't really run a contest for that. It was kind of through the ringer. Crash used it for a while. I used it for a while.
It had been a long-term test subject for both of us.
Yeah, no, and it's a really, the thing is, that was a nice helmet actually, and I cleaned it up really well, and one of the listeners sent me an email and said he'd take it. I sent some pictures to him. I'm sorry, Dave, it took me so long to do that, but I shipped it out to him today, so he'll be getting a helmet.
If you're looking for a helmet just pretty much just like the Monaco, check out Climb's flip face helmet. It's made by Laser. It's the Monaco with some Climb additions. Yeah,
it's very similar. It's a very nice helmet. I actually tried one on at AIM and was impressed. It was nice. I'm like, this feels familiar. And that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Flip-ups, not to go off track on what we're talking about giving away, but I've always been a fan of flip-up helmets, and I'm looking forward to hopefully testing the Schuberth as well.
Yeah. After using the Schuberth M1, I would buy a Schuberth.
They were super comfortable helmets, but I've never ridden with one. How was the wind noise in that?
What wind noise?
Really?
I mean, even for a open face helmet, it was way quieter than anything else I've ridden in. I don't think that the reason I could hear the speakers so clearly was because of the speakers. I think it was because the helmet was so much quieter.
Cool. Okay, so what I was getting to on the contest was, this is where a guy like Steven, who's a Patreon supporter, is going to have a better shot at winning, is because if you support us on Patreon and hang out with us on Slack, you're going to get 2 chances to win. So it's an advantage. So here's what we're going to do, I think. And Crash, let's kick this around. So once the show airs, we'll give it 30 days, and then we'll go ahead and start the contest. How does that sound?
Yeah. So you guys have 30 days to get on a Patreon and throw us $1 a month at the minimum, basically. And then that'll get you access to the Slack. And anytime we have a contest of any kind, you'll have 2 opportunities to win as opposed to just 1.
We think that's kind of fair, and it's cool for you guys. It's an added little bonus for the people that help support us, and we will be getting more stuff too. So, some of the stuff's going to be lightly used. Like we test it once, a couple rides, write a story about it, take some photos, and send it out. And some stuff may be long term, where it's still very serviceable and in great shape and good condition. The Monaco was, that's not. We were going to run a contest on that helmet. Was used a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I rode for like 4,000 miles on one trip in that helmet.
Yeah. Now I pulled all the pads out, wiped them all down with Clorox, and I, wipes. And I told Dave, I'm like, I'd still go ahead and wash the pads with soap and water and let them dry, so you don't get the mixture of Chris's funk and my head.
Yeah. Whatever it is we got.
Yeah. So that's what I was getting. That's what I'm saying. And by the way, the jacket is, for those of you who are asking, it's a 2XL. The Climb jacket. Man, what a nice jacket. I'm going to be posting a review on that, a written review as well. But let me tell you, for the cost of that jacket, you get a lot of features in it. It's all D3O armor, including the back protector. Because typically on most premium jackets, a lot of times the back protector is just foam. And then you got to upgrade that. This thing is all D3O. It's it's just not. It's not a vented jacket, so it's not really a summer jacket at all where you have hot weather. It would be fine, maybe in the summertime up in the Pacific Northwest or Northern California, especially when you have a lot of rain. It's a wax cotton jacket, not Gore-Tex either, but it's really nice. So we'll be giving. Matter of fact, I packed it all up in the box yesterday. It's ready to ship out.
Be perfect for the season we've had up here. We've gotten so much rain, it's not even funny. Flooding everywhere. Half the shores are all washed away. It's been nuts.
Yeah, we've got the tropical storm coming through Florida right now, so it's been raining a lot here as well. The difference is the flooding's not as bad as it is. I think our drainage just in general in Florida is a little bit better, but we'll see what happens in the next couple of days with this thing moving over the state. So when you guys get this summer rain like that, what's the temperature like, Steven?
Well, normally we don't get this summer rain. We get a couple, maybe like a month or so, get a couple showers. Mm-hmm. This year it's just been abnormally wet. We've had maybe 3 or 4 weeks so far that we haven't had any rain. Gone entire months where rain almost every single day. Normally the temperature is about 60, 65 generally.
65?
When it's not raining, yeah.
In the summertime?
Yeah. When it's raining, wow. When it stops raining, then the humidity gets you and it feels like it's 90.
Right. Well, I guess that, that's the only thing, and that's what sucks about Florida too, is especially when you're on a motorcycle, is because it's that transition from all of a sudden the temperature drops to like say 75 and it's cool, and then you get that heavy rain, and then the sun instantly comes out. There's no like ramping up to it where it's still overcast. The clouds move out, the sun's up completely, and the crazy thing is you see the roads like smoking from heat because the asphalt was boiling all day. Yeah, then it rains a little bit. So now that just adds to the humidity because you got all that steam coming off the asphalt, and it's just brutal. So you're like wearing gear, and you're happy that you had the gear on, and because it started to rain, then all of a sudden the sun comes out. Now you're in wet gear, but it's worse. And this is why, and I've said this before, I'm a big proponent of a waterproof breathable shell like a Gore-Tex jacket, because that jacket's not getting saturated with water when it rains. So anything that's got a rain liner in it that's not a waterproof outer shell, like a jacket that I've had in the past, one of the part mesh, part nylon jacket, it just saturates with water. So now all of a sudden the sun comes out and you're even more uncomfortable than you were before because you're wearing a wet jacket. because and then you can't take the liner out.
Well,
Otherwise, your skin and your clothes will get all wet. So it's kind of a pain. But anyway, back to the.
I live in San Diego. It's sprinkled the other day.
Was it
And that was a big deal here.
Was that on purpose, or did somebody, was it an accident?
I don't know. Government weather control programs are not really my forte, but
We know the Navy runs that, so
I got rained on like this much, just a tiny bit, and then I kept my helmet inside while I was at work, and then I put it outside later.
oh boy. So
Yeah,
another thing I was
rough.
going to talk to you about, because I know we're running a little long here.
Yeah, it's all right.
I was driving down the road the other day, and I catch this motorcycle out of the corner of my eye that I thought belonged to Simon or Lisa Thomas. It was kind of wrapped, with like a map on it, and I'm like, oh man. So I turned around and went back, and it turns out it was a bike from Brazil. It was a BMW, one of the 800 GSs.
Okay.
And I'm looking at this guy's fairing, and I posted some pictures on Slack, but this guy's doing an around the world trip. And he's been doing it in segments. So like he'll have on his top box in the back, he had 2011, then listed all the countries he'd been through with the mileage and all. So I left a business card for the show on the bike and a note saying, hey, I'd love to interview you. And I got an email back from the guy, and lo and behold, he's going through a trip now. He was going to be leaving to head up to Alaska. And I set up an interview with him, and then subsequently found out the guy didn't speak any English.
I was wondering how this interview came about.
That's how it
Now
came
I know.
about. I left a card on the guy's motorcycle. I thought the bike was really cool. And I said, I'd really love to talk to a guy that's done an around the world trip, because he's like finishing it up. This is the last leg. And I
Mhm.
forgot what the mileage was. It was crazy. But so I get an email from the guy written in Portuguese, and I run it through Google Translator. And then we go back and forth with emails. And it turns out he brings a translator with him. So he brought a local guy named Joe Bell that owns a place called X Gator Motorsports here in South Florida. That's a little one-stop shop. They sell used bikes. They do service. He's got parts, supplies. A cool little place. And then he also brought, the guy's name was Jose Carlos, and he brought his riding buddy that's going to be doing the last leg with him. And it was kind of neat, man. Sat down. These guys had on all IXS gear. They were kind of sponsored by IXS. And we had a really good interview, even though it was translated by another person. It was pretty interesting.
That's cool. That sounds like
So-
a fun opportunity.
Yeah, I'm going to get that edited up this week and put it up on the site, and it'll be a little bonus show out there for you guys.
Cool.
What else you got?
So
Nice.
I'm kind of out of stuff. Looking forward to painting the saddlebags and patching my little hole.
That was pink again with sparkles?
Yeah. I was thinking about doing some fur on top, like a leopard print on top.
Oh, man, that's going to look so cool.
Yeah.
Just trim the headlight in leopard print, too.
I should. That'd be nice. Like just
Yeah.
the ring around the
Yeah.
headlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some Elmer's glue and just glue it on there. It'll look great.
Yeah. In all seriousness, though, it's going to match the bike, the same kind of sand color as the bike. Looking forward to getting that done. The saddlebags will definitely be done in the next few days, maybe by the beginning of next week. Scheduling with Lee to get my bike in there for him to make the last little brackets for the frame. I'm not really sure about, but it's not like I'm going to die if I don't put these saddlebags on, so it's okay.
When you finish this, are you still going to be able to use those brackets for the other bags you had, or are we kind of
Yeah.
like going to a permanent? All right.
No, I should definitely be able to switch back and forth, which is good because with the ammo cans, they're so damn big that Jess is not going to be able to ride with me while they're on. They're going to like almost completely block the passenger peg. So that's why I got that Happy Trail mounting system, because they're really easily removable. So I'll be able to have the big.
You know what's funny is I
switch.
think sometimes for the OEM manufacturers, that's kind of an afterthought as well, because on the Stelvio, the brackets and those, they had Trax bags on it.
Mhm.
They were mounted so far forward that the pillion, it almost, because of how far forward they were to the passenger pegs, it pushed the pillion forward on the seat because they couldn't get their feet back far enough. So it actually made for a really uncomfortable ride. If you had somebody on the back, you felt like they were glued to you. They were so close, and they didn't even really get to use the full seat on there. There were a couple guys on the ADD forum that made relocator plates, which, you know, added like 10 pounds to the bike, but they had machined these plates that caused the bag to sit farther back and a little lower. But, you know, it's like whoever designed those racks in the bag probably sat that bike up in a design studio and didn't even think about having a pillion on there.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I know that when I had my initial saddlebag set up, the even little soft bags I had were too far forward to be able to put someone's feet on the passenger pegs. And that's why I had Lee make a custom rack where they're moved back. But when I went to mount the ammo cans like centered on the rack, they're just way too far back. So I moved them up forward knowing I could take them off and put the other ones on if I needed to. Or just ride with none. It's not like I need them.
Hey, changing gears for a second. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I ordered Lisa Thomas's cookbook. Did I tell you that?
Is Lisa that's from To Ride the World, right?
Yeah, Simon's wife.
Yeah, Simon and Lisa. Yeah.
Thomas. Yeah, she wrote a cookbook about like one pot cooking when you're camping.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's like not, you know, just it's really kind of exotic food that she uses, or recipes, I should say, not necessarily the food, but it's most of the ingredients you can get at your local store before you hit the campground. But everything's, and she even lists all the stuff that she carries in her cooking kit. It's called Dirty Dining.
I knew the word dirty was in there. I couldn't.
Yeah, pretty neat. Find the actual name of it.
She's got a potty mouth.
She does. They both do. She's pretty funny.
They do. They're really funny.
Yeah, it's called Dirty Dining and Adventurers Cookbook by Lisa Thomas. You can find it on Amazon, but it's pretty neat. She lists all stuff that she uses in her kit and the ingredients that she carries with her and seasoning. So I'm going to be trying some of those recipes out at the Overland Expo.
Cool.
Yeah. So, you know, I was going to say too, for the listeners, if you're going to be there, come, man, shoot me an email. Send me an email to Steve at CafeRacerPodcast.com and come hang out with me while we're there. I love to meet people that listen to the show. Same at Barber as well. Send me an email, tell me where you're going to be. I'll shoot you my contact info, a number where you can reach me, and we'll hang out when we're up there.
And I'm going to be at AIM Expo. Me and Jess are both going to go. We're only going to be there for the press day at the show, and they're going to be in Columbus for the next day. So if you're in the Columbus area and you want to hang out on the Friday after the press day for AIM Expo, then
I wish I was going to be going. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It's at crash@caferacerpodcast.com.
All right, cool, man. That's all I got. Steven, you want to say anything?
Steven, yeah. Where can people find your, do you have like Instagram or anything like that?
Yeah, I have an Instagram. It's Special Case 1987. Every once in a while I'll post a picture of my latest build. It's a 74 CB360 that I got.
Nice.
Post pictures of little rides that I go on, stuff like that. Just little updates here and there.
All right.
Okay,
so Special
cool.
Case 1987.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll post that link too. I'm looking for your Instagram page now. So,
all right. So go ahead.
Speaking of Instagram, we're in all the usual places: Instagram, the Twitters, Facebook, all Cafe Racer Podcast, with the exception of Twitter. We are Cafe Racer Pod. But check us out everywhere. If this is the first time you're listening, thanks for listening. If you're a longtime listener, really thanks for listening. And if you're a supporter, we absolutely love you. If you are a supporter and you're not on Slack, man, you're missing all the fun. So come on, check us out on there. And if you're not a supporter, you're missing all the fun. So get on Patreon and help us out. We do this for the love of it, and every little bit that we get from you guys, even if it's $12 a year, helps a lot for us because we pay out of pocket.
You'd be surprised how far $12 a year can go.
Yeah, especially for web hosting and all the stuff we pay for. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
If you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. And if you don't like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. If you don't like the show,
absolutely.
Send us some information. We've got a number that Crash is running his mouth. I'll tell you what our phone number is. Hold on.
Yeah. So yeah, like Steve was saying, the Patreon thing is definitely it's our only source of sort of financial support. We don't take any kind of like sponsorships from companies or anything. They just send us stuff sometimes, but we don't like they don't send us money. They're not paying us to talk about their products or anything. We're giving them a fair review. So yeah, Patreon is how we get our financial support. If you want to help us have, stickers and stuff to sell, like I actually, just as a heads up, I ordered 100 patches, embroidered patches that you'd like sew onto a jacket or a shirt or whatever of the show logo. And they should be here in a few weeks. We're gonna sell some of those. We've earmarked a couple of those for me, my wife, and for Steve. But after that, we're going to sell the rest. I'm not exactly sure anything beyond that. I have to set up the store on the website and everything. I finally figured out why the old show logo was showing up on iTunes. So if you go to iTunes, you'll see our actual correct show logo now. That's kind of exciting. Maybe only for me and Steve.
Took us forever to figure that out, and finally Crash did.
Yeah, I was literally just like doing something on my phone, and I was like, wait a minute. Let me look at this one place. I don't think we've checked there yet. And then look, there it is. There's a link to the old image. Got that fixed. So that's exciting.
Okay,
Steve,
so here's our phone number. It's area code's 561-285-7190. We love it if you leave a voicemail. If you want us to talk about something on the show, leave a voicemail. If you want to tell us how great we are, leave a voicemail. If you want to tell us how crappy we are, leave a voicemail, and I'll forward it over to the Wheel Nerds. So,
sounds good. Thanks again, Steven, for coming on the show. It was nice to have you on to talk about bikes. If anybody else has,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, and anybody is welcome to be on the show at any time. It's pretty simple to be on. Without further ado, get out there and ride.
See ya.